that video. Okay, it's quite long. It's broken up into about 3 parts. And it catalogues this very interesting encounter between the young lady who was a passenger in the vehicle and the police. Lots of teachable moments. I think I'll let you walk us through it. First of all, how the lady handled the situation. Did she get anything wrong?
Thank you very much, Kojo, and let me also say good morning to your cherished listeners. This is not the first time I have been on this platform to discuss issues relating to the Ghana Police Service and the way that they tend to handle people that is suspect of having committed some crime or who have actually committed a crime. I have taken a look at the video in question, and I must say that I was quite appalled by the play out of events in that video. You have asked about the conduct of the lady in the video. In my opinion, I do not see anything amiss with the way that she handled the incident that she found herself in. I strongly believe that it is a right of every citizen to be very much aware of the reason why he or she is being restricted, detained, or even arrested by the police. There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking a police officer, what have I done? What is the reason for you stopping me? What is the reason for this restriction or detention that you are causing me to be in? So in terms of the conduct of the young lady in the video in question, I do not see anything amiss or anything wrong with her conduct. I do not see any instances of her being rude, any instances of her being uncooperative. Rather, it is the attitude or the demeanor of the police officers in question that I have a challenge with.
Let's
I
talk
do not
about
want
that.
to jump the gun. Possibly you will get there and you want to question me about that as well.
Let's get straight to it. I deliberately asked about the lady first because I wanted that out of the way. Now we can settle into the conduct of the police. Take it away.
Thank you, Kojo. Now, anytime I have the opportunity to speak on this platform about the Ghana Police Service, I always like to begin my submissions by saying that we very much, as citizens, as civilians, appreciate the work that is done by our men in uniform. Everyone feels protected when there's police presence on the roads, and other places. We do very much appreciate the work that they do. But that notwithstanding, there's clearly the need for professional conduct by the police in their dealings with us. From all indications, the work that the police does ought to be carried out within the confines of the 1992 Constitution, which is the supreme law of this country. Secondly, it is important, absolutely important, that the police carries out their work with extreme professionalism. And this is the reason or the rationale for this is quite simple. Their work usually involves restricting the rights of the people that they deal with, restricting the liberties of people. So clearly, in doing such a thing and in upholding the constitutional requirements of the dignity of all persons, it is clear that the Ghana Police Service ought to be very professional in their dealings with those that they suspect of having committed a crime or even of people that have actually committed a crime. I watched with extreme shock, extreme surprise. I was totally baffled. And if the contents of the video are exactly what actually happened, especially at the police station, then there's a reason for all of us to be worried. I mean, the nature of the language. We all heard the swear words that one of the police officers in the video, uttered to this young lady. That is why I'm giving that caveat, that in the event what we saw in the video is the exact representation of what happened at the police station that day, then we have every reason to be worried as Ghanaians. To go to the extent of telling her that we do not have any right to explain anything to you, you cannot question us. I'm sorry, that is definitely not the case. We have every reason to know the reason why we are being restricted and detained. So clearly, in terms of the conduct of the particular police officers in that video, I don't think it was anything to write home about. They are very professional police officers that we tend to deal with on the roads and in other places all the time. But the conduct that I watched or that I saw in that particular video was absolutely nothing to write home about.
Now, here's the thing. the police are armed. They are not always interested in following the law themselves. So, as a citizen, exactly how much should you insist on your rights when you are dealing with people who have weapons, who are capable of using them and getting away with it? We've seen it happen before. How would you, as a lawyer, how would you advise citizens? How far should they go in insisting on their rights when dealing with police officers who are behaving in this way?
Thank you very much, Kojo. Now, one thing that I have always said in discussions of this sort to all of us is the fact that we also need to be cooperative in our dealings with the police. In as much as we have rights that we can accept when dealing with the police, we also have responsibilities. And a major responsibility in dealing with the police is to be cooperative. So when there is absolutely no need to unnecessarily, avoid cooperating with the police, one does not have to avoid cooperating with them. Now, you have mentioned the issue of weapons. Now, I'm very much aware that by their own standard operating procedures, there's a way that they are supposed to handle their weapons. There are very few cases where you have people complain that a weapon was waved in front of them or they were threatened with a weapon. I haven't come across many of such cases. But in dealing with the police, the advice that I have always given to colleagues, to friends, to clients is that in as much as possible, insist on your rights, all right, but at the same time, be very cooperative with the police. Like I'm saying, I haven't had many instances of people here in this country being threatened with the weapons that they use. But in the event that you find yourself in a situation like that, of course, exercise as much restraint as you can. There's always a remedy that is available. It is better for you to be alive and to be well and to insist on getting a remedy that is available to you than for something to happen with you and then there's no opportunity for you to actually get a remedy for unprofessional conduct by the police.
Now, if you just joined us, we're talking to Gertrude Amorkor Amarh. Gertrude is a lecturer at UPSA Law School. She's a lawyer, and she's helping us understand the do's and don'ts of our encounters with the police, especially when they do these stop and search exercises, which have now become the subject of a viral video. A young lady filmed one of such encounters, and some of the behavior of the police has really sparked public uproar. Right, Gertrude, let me ask you this. This lady filmed as much of this encounter as she possibly could. What's the advice here? Because we've all seen police officers either seize or destroy people's phones or, order them to stop filming. What does the law say about whether or not you can film an encounter with the police?
Okay. In recent times, there have been a lot of questions on whether or not you can actually film or record your encounter with the police. I do recall that in some time past, the police had actually commented on these issues themselves. Now, to the extent that the filming or the recording that you are doing is not hindering or it is not restraining the police from carrying out their duties, of course, you are allowed to film your encounter with the police. And there's very good reason for insisting on doing that. We have all seen the video of this young woman in question. We have seen other videos in the past where, people who are having encounters with the police have insisted on recording these encounters. There's absolutely nothing illegal about recording of these encounters. Like I'm saying, to the extent that you're recording is not hindering or is not preventing the police from actually carrying out their duties. In this video that came out this week, we saw how this young lady carried out the filming, even while at the police station. And again, if the video, I keep saying, if it is the exact representation of what actually happened at the police station, then we saw that although she was filming, the police officers in question still had the opportunity to carry out whatever searches they were doing without any hindrances. So yes, civilians do have the right to film their encounters with the police to the extent that that filming is not in any way hindering the police from carrying out whatever duties that they are doing. And that is a right that it must be allowed to exercise, I must say.
So can the police use their discretion to say your filming is hindering their work, and so they are seizing your phone, for example?
Of course, that is the question that comes up, because from my own submission, I try to make it clear that we are all under a responsibility to ensure that we do not prevent the police from carrying out their duties. Now, of course, the excuse that is likely to come from some particular police officers who do not want this to happen is that, hey, what you are doing is actually preventing me from carrying out my duties. But objectively, is this the case? Objectively, is this the case? We need to apply an objective test in arriving at a conclusion of whether or not a mere act of filming an encounter with the police is actually hindering them from carrying out their duties. So on the issue of discretion, I think that it is not merely the discretion of the police officer in question. The citizen who is also being, engaged by the police also needs to assess whether or not in that instance of filming, whether or not to him as well, objectively, there's some restraint that is actually being caused or some hindrance that is being caused to the police in carrying out their duty. So it is not up to the police to say that. The citizen in question also has a right to make that determination.
All right, this is how I'd like us to wrap up. We've got just a minute to go. So, can the police randomly stop a citizen and search them?
Okay, now this is the question that I think we have all been waiting to, to get some comments on. Now, let me start with the requirements again of the supreme law of this land, which is the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. Now, when you look at Article 14 of the Constitution, it is clear, or it has provisions for the protection of the personal liberty of all persons. Now, the Constitution makes it clear that every person shall be entitled to his or her personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of this personal liberty except in certain instances that are listed under Article 14. Now, if you look at Article 14G, Article 14 clause 1G, one of the instances is that upon reasonable suspicion of you having committed or being about to commit a criminal offense under the laws of Ghana. So the Constitution allows your personal liberty to be restrained at a point upon reasonable suspicion of you having committed a crime or even about to commit a crime. Now, when it comes to searches of persons, and in this case, we are talking about searches without a warrant. The Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1960 Act 30 also has certain, provisions that ought to be followed. Now, under Section 93 of Act 30, you will realize that the law provides for the search without a warrant in certain cases. When the police or when a police officer has reasonable ground, and the emphasis here is on what? Reasonable ground, to believe that an article, which possibly has been stolen or unlawfully obtained, or in respect of a criminal offense which is about to be committed, there's some article which is being conveyed, is being concealed, or is being carried on a person in a public place. The police have the right to actually conduct a search of that article, which of course would be on on someone. The point here is that the police, once they have reasonable cause to believe that an article is being conveyed by someone, and of course, how do they have this reasonable cause to believe that? They have their own intelligence, which we as civilians may not be privy to, but that is the intelligence that they work with. But the defining thing is that there has to be reasonable cause to believe that a person is actually carrying or transporting such an article which may be the subject of a crime that has been committed. In cases like that, the law gives them the opportunity to search whatever article that you may have on you without a warrant. Now, the next question becomes, in conducting those searches, is there a protocol that ought to be followed? Of course, there's a protocol that ought to be followed. And I strongly believe that I have had a chance to discuss these issues on this platform before. When you look again at Article 14, Clause 2 of the Constitution, it is clear that a person who is arrested, number one, restricted, number two, or detained, many a times we tend to focus on the aspect of arrest only without realizing that the Constitution also covers incidents of a restriction. You know, the police stopping you, preventing you from moving as freely as you want without an arrest having necessarily been carried out, or even detained. You shall be informed immediately in a language that you understand of the reasons for the arrest, the restriction or detention, and of your right to a lawyer of your choice. So, Kojo, the point is that once the police have some reasonable suspicion of you carrying an article which may be the proceeds of a crime or which may have been obtained through some criminal activity or what have you, yes, they can't stop you. But it is absolutely important that they tell you the reason for that stop. They explain to you why they are actually restricting your movement, and they tell you your right to a lawyer of your choice. So you cannot just stop me and then say, I want to search your bag. For what reason? And that is why I believe that the young lady in that particular video did absolutely nothing wrong by asking that, why are you stopping me? It is a right of every citizen to ask this question. Why am I being stopped? Do I fit a description like he rightly asked? Do you have some intelligence? Do you have some reasonable cause to believe that I'm carrying on my person something which has been unlawfully obtained, or which is the process of a criminal offense which has been committed or which is about to be committed? These are very relevant questions that every citizen has every right to ask the police when they are stopped.
I want to say a big thank you to you, Gertrude Amorkor Amarh, lecturer, UPSA Law School and lawyer. Certainly given us quite an education this morning. We appreciate it.